Greetings, Ed, from Abu Dhabi, the capital of the United Arab Emirates, the UAE. This tiny nation on the Arabian Peninsula is actually a coalition of 7 emirates run by different royal families. Iran is just a short distance across the Persian Gulf, and the U.S. nuclear deal with Iran that's coming to a head in just 3 days is a major worry here, as is the U.S.-led fight against ISIS and radical Islamic extremism in the region. That is seen as an existential threat here in the UAE. I sat down with the foreign minister, who is one of the Crown Prince's sons, Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and I started by asking him about the UAE efforts against ISIS.
They are trying to hijack our religion. It's not about them not liking other religions. No, they don't like our religion. They don't like the way we practice our Islam. They would like to force their interpretation of Islam on our values, on our countries, on our families.
There's enough being done to fight ISIS.
We cannot get rid of ISIS if the situation in Syria is not dealt with in the proper manner. And that's a tragedy, seeing over 200,000 Syrians slaughtered. Almost 10 million Syrians either are refugees or displaced.
You're taking a leadership role, obviously, on the fight against extremism. You recently came out with a list of terrorist organizations. 2 of them raised some eyebrows, as you can imagine, in Washington. CAIR, Council on American Muslim Relations, and Muslim American Society. Why do that?
Our threshold is quite low when we talk about extremism. We cannot accept incitement or funding when we look at some of these organizations. I mean, for many countries, the definition of terror is that you have to carry a weapon and terrorize people. For us, it's far beyond that. We cannot tolerate even the smallest and the tiniest amount of terrorism.
So, I mean, you have a zero tolerance on terrorism, on extremism, but do you think that the U.S. is even as tough as you all are on some of these groups?
You should ask them.
You worked alongside Egypt to launch strikes against extremist groups in Libya, and that took a lot of people by surprise in Washington.
We believe, especially the countries who played a role in getting rid of Gaddafi, first of all, should have played a far bigger role the day after. They haven't. But today they have a huge responsibility in getting Libya in the right side. I don't see a situation where Libya, forget being useful and helpful for the region, but Libya could be a huge ticking bomb for the region.
So do you think the U.S. dropped the ball there?
I don't want to mention one country or the other, but the entire coalition had a bigger responsibility, which unfortunately they didn't live up to.
Let me talk to you about Iran, your neighbor just across the Persian Gulf. Now it's coming to a head on Monday, this nuclear deal. What are your thoughts, concerns about that deal?
The question that us in the region will ask, more than what that deal will contain or not, is what's Iran's role going to be the day after? We'll wake up Tuesday morning and everyone, I mean most of us, they'll ask the question that what Iran is going to get out of it, not on the nuclear front, but on the regional front. We would wish, obviously, that such a deal would look like very much what we have here in the UAE, where we have no enrichment, no reprocessing. But obviously that's far from what's going to happen.
have you seen how the U.S. plays in this region, how it's perceived in this region change? And if so, how?
I think we have to move away from a period where Brussels, Washington, London, and Paris think that they know the region better than the people of the region. And I think that's our biggest challenge.
James Mattis, former CENTCOM commander, said this. He said about the UAE, their biggest concern isn't Iran, it's American disengagement. Fair?
No, it's not fair. I don't think it's fair. We have challenges of extremism, radicalism, fascism, and we have social challenges, we have economical challenges, political challenges, and I think these matters are not been discussed in a way where the region can rely enough to its historical partners. It just looks to me that the West, our historical partners, either they are preoccupied with their internal matters, or they are a bit too sore with their efforts in the region. I don't think they have given up, but I think they are in a shield room or a glass room, which they think that their interpretation of the region is the right one.
In the words of another former CENTCOM commander, General Anthony Zinni, the UAE is, quote, all in when it comes to fighting ISIS and terrorists. More military strike aircraft have launched from the airbase here, Al Dhafra, than any other military facility in the region. But the real question is how much influence the UAE will have on other Arab nations about stopping the funding of terrorist organizations and speaking out against radical Islamic extremism. Ed, back to you.
Rep. Hair, great interview. Thanks for letting me fill in.